when my computer melts, genuinely during Spiderverse, my computer had a RAM problem. It literally couldn't keep up, and I had to take it to some like shady computer man in mid-city and just like, hey, I gotta get this done. And
today we have a super jam-packed show. I always love learning about animation and the process of it all. Luckily today we have an animator on the show. So, hello everybody, and welcome to the Hollywood Lot Life podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of the elusive entertainment industry. If you've ever dreamed of working in Hollywood or making it as a studio executive, then this is the podcast for you. Please, before we start, smash that like button and make sure you subscribe to the channel. In third grade, he was voted most likely to run a Fortune 500 company. He's been at Sony Pictures Animation since 2017 and worked on all your favorite hits from Into the Spiderverse to, a classic that I love, The Emoji Movie. He's currently moving and grooving in the Miracle Mile in Los Angeles, California. He's his Nana's favorite grandkid. It's Michael V. Shrader, or better known as just Shrayder. Shrayder, welcome onto the show.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Good. Thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you.
So just to get us in, you work for Sony Pictures Animation as an animator, is that correct?
Correct. More specifically, motion graphics designer, animator, meaning I do a lot more flat images. Traditionally, modern animators do a lot of like 3D modeling and moving cameras in 3D space. My job is much easier than that. I just make flat images move. A lot of text. I animate a lot of text. A lot of treatment for marketing and commercials. The beginning of the movies with all the logos, and I've worked on the Sony logo, the Columbia Lady, Marvel. Amy Pascal, Lord Miller. That's been my job for the last couple of years, is working on logos and animatics and storyboards. Yeah.
Now, I've heard this. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. You did the intro for Into the Spiderverse or Across the Spiderverse. Is that correct?
Both. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So Into the Spiderverse, I designed and timed out all the glitches and the alternate universes, and then we sent that over to another kind of like a third party animated studio to make like the final version, and then for the sequel, I just did it all myself. Yeah, that was a pretty crazy couple months, but we got the movie out and it was good.
Well, let's rewind the clock a little bit more and get to know you before we jump into the animation talk. Are you originally from LA? Where are you from?
I'm from Phoenix originally. I went to school up in Utah, up at BYU, and then I ended up here in LA. Right after school.
So what led you to pursue a career in entertainment?
In high school, I was watching the DVD bonus features for like Finding Nemo, Monsters, Inc., The Incredibles, and on The Incredibles specifically, they had this behind the scenes of flat images like moving through 3D space of like Sharpie on paper cut out like a diorama and then putting a camera through it. And that like blew my mind as a kid. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I like it and I want to do that. And so honestly, it just kind of sat in the back of my head for the longest time. And I told my mom probably like sophomore year of high school, like I want to be an animator. Like I want to get into that industry. But I took a bunch of art classes. I didn't really take art super seriously until I was in college. It was just like this weird hobby that I did. And then when I got into the animation program at BYU. I still didn't take it super seriously, to be honest. I was able to get my foot in the door as a production assistant at Sony. 2017 was actually a huge year. They usually would put out like one film a year. In 2017, they put out 3. So everybody was sweating, and it was real easy to just slip in. I did regular kind of PA stuff. I answered emails and scheduled appointments and cleaned cubicles for a while. Through the grapevine, just water cooler talk, I heard an editor who needed some help, and I just kind of asked him, like, it's like, hey, I don't know what editors do. I'm trying to stay. I love it here at Sony, and here's my resume, right? Like, here's all the weird things I know how to do. And his eyes lit up, and he's like, if you know After Effects, if you know like motion graphics, if you know how to edit, that's huge, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. So I was able to kind of sneak on a production, and Sony was super cool, just letting me kind of goof around with their IP. So I ended up in this weird kind of gray area between the art department and the editorial department. I was on call for emergencies that the editing team always had. Eventually, I got somebody's attention, and I ended up working on Hotel Transylvania 3. They were doing screenings for an audience, which you can do screenings for live action a little bit easier than you can for animation. Animation doesn't get animated like actually 3D models in 3D space till kind of the end of the process. So an early screening is super rough storyboards, basically like Sharpie on index cards. And they had this really action-packed sequence that just wasn't reading well to audiences.
Because they didn't understand it, because it was just on, very plain and simple.
Exactly, yeah. If you go in and you're expecting a big, fully rendered, bright, colorful Disney movie, and then you're just showed essentially like a flip book, like somebody just sits and's like, hey, look at this thing. That's not an enjoyable experience. That's kind of disappointing. So that was like the biggest note, and it always is, of just like, this movie looks like it was just drawn. It's like, well, okay, that's how animation works. So I got to help animate storyboards, and I did animatics for Hotel Transylvania with childhood legend Gendy Tartakovsky. So amazing just to be like in the same room as this guy, but then he's like making eye contact with me and like talking to me was absolutely mind-blowing, like right out of college.
So you started at Sony, and then you're now at Sony. Did you ever work anywhere else on the in-between?
I accidentally worked at Netflix a little bit.
How did you accidentally work there?
I do a lot of side gigs, a lot of miscellaneous, friends need help or whatever. And a friend of mine from Mitchell's vs. Machines, Toby Wilson, reached out to me. And he's like, hey, we're doing an animated intro and would just love your help on like a super small thing. I was like, yeah, I got a little time. What are you doing? I thought this was going to be like, he was going to Venmo me under the table and like everything would be cool. But honestly, props to Netflix and the production. They're like, no, we want to make sure this is all like above board, and we want to make sure it's official. We want to make sure you're part of the Animators Guild. We want to make sure you're part of all of this. So I ended up like signing paperwork, and I was sweating the whole time. This was like my first time doing anything like that outside of Sony. I was sweating the whole time. Everybody was cool. It really wasn't anything. It was way bigger in my head, story of my life. So I have worked on just miscellaneous other things.
Did you have to tell Sony that you were working for Netflix, or was that not an issue?
I did, and they were cool with it. As long as I show up to meetings and I get my work done, nobody's worried about it too much.
That's the best kind of job.
It really is. I like it a lot. Yeah. I've been doing a lot more freelance lately. My position at Sony changed just slightly very, very recently. So yeah, available for work. Hit me up. Instagram at Shrader. Hit me up.
What kind of things do you do, on your side?
I'm usually working with directors and producers. An art director, if they have one, I take their ideas and concepts. Again, a lot of what I do is like opening title work. So it's a lot of references to other movies, right? Like it's a lot of, oh, this movie did this. And like, of course, they pick the most beautiful, iconic opening scenes. And they're like, oh, can you just do this? Like, yeah, okay,
yeah,
bud,
of course.
Sure thing. that is something that I really enjoy is the connections and meeting with people, and every production's a little bit different, and every story is different. My day to day is so different every day. Every production, every part of the pipeline is a little bit different. It's a lot of art and design. It's a lot of meetings, unfortunately. It's a lot of creativity in the best way.
And that just made me think, is it a lot of talking heads in this, or like approval process?
That is probably the worst part of the process, is getting notes, but it's also something that you just have to like emotionally and physically budget for, of like, I know my first pass is not going to get approved. Maybe my like fifth, right? I know if I've gone like 10 to 12 iterations, like I'm just missing something. Like there's something fundamentally wrong. I really enjoy the problem solving of it. I really like the puzzle of it. It's in my head, it plays almost like a little Sudoku puzzle of like very, very slow at first and then just incrementally faster. And it's like, okay, give me a minute. And once that right number hits the right square, just everything just fills in. I love stuff like that. So this job is extremely satisfying for me. I like it a lot.
So you talk about your day to day as someone who's never worked in animation. Is that drawing? Is that working on the computer?
All of the above. I've got a sketchbook I carry around with me for random ideas. I've got a pack of washable Crayola crayons just in case. A lot of Sharpies, a lot of pencils, just to kind of thumbnail and get ideas out. Then I usually take that into Photoshop, kind of polish it up just to get better scope of what it looks like on a screen. Something in a book in your hands looks very different than illuminated on a screen in a dark room, right?
How long does, the average animated movie take?
At the most extremes, I think the first Hotel Transylvania took like 9 years to make. It went through a million different iterations with a dozen different directors. Eventually, it became like Sony's biggest franchise, right? Whereas the Emoji Movie was like 2 years, minimum budget, minimum time frame. On average, an original movie, I think, takes 3 to 5 years. And then sequels are a lot quicker to make, mostly because like all the like character work has already been done in the first one, right? So even if DreamWorks changes their animation software like they did for How to Train Your Dragon 3, I think, they had to like completely start from scratch and build that whole movie from scratch. But they still had a ton of reference material behind them to help make updated assets and resources and stuff. So yeah, sequels are faster and they make more money. So everybody's big on sequels.
It makes sense when Despicable Me keeps coming out with one. Like I think the fourth one comes out this summer or whatever, and they all look the exact same.
Yeah, Illumination really found something with their Minion style, and I don't blame them for making more movies. They do a great job. I love their stuff.
It's so crazy that the whole world of animation kind of is jumping around, and all the different studios taking their turns at being in the spotlight.
Yeah, I love that. It seems like audiences are getting more interested in unique styles. It's a way for individual filmmakers to kind of put more personality into their own work personally.
How long did that intro for you personally take on Across the Spiderverse?
On the first movie, I think I was on it for 2 months. And then we shopped it out to that other studio and they worked on it for maybe another month to actually like finalize it.
Wow, just that intro.
Yeah, shout out Deva Studios. They're good. And then for Across the Spiderverse, I maybe did like a month of kind of like homework and research and designs, and that was a lot more like casual and slower, honestly. And then the last 2 months, so it was probably like March, April, May, like 2.5 months doing 2 minutes of animation, like a minute and 40 seconds of animation in 3 months.
Here's a question for you. What is like one thing that people may not know about animators or your job that you find super interesting?
You may not know about my job specifically, is there's a lot more math involved than I expected. I was never a huge math kid in school. Nobody is filling up their sketchbooks with fun equations, but I find myself doing that now. Something that I learned in school was it's better in the long run to build a tool that you can use multiple times rather than a custom thing for every job that you do. It's faster. It's more efficient. Once you make the thing, then you can tweak it to be more specifically towards your end goal. And so I really like that idea of building a tool. So for my first couple years at Sony, it was kind of like, okay, what are the constant repetitions in my job? What are things that I am wasting a lot of time on with repetition, and how can I kind of streamline my process? One of my absolute favorite examples was we were making a teaser for the second movie, the second Spiderverse, and I was in an empty editor's bay. So I just found an empty editor's room, and I took the name tag off my cubicle and I put it on the editor's room, and I was like, this is it. And I had all my mail forwarded to this room, and everybody was cool with it. Everybody's like, yeah, whatever. We're not using it. Go for it. So I had a little room to myself in this very small closet of a room. I had Phil Lord, Chris Miller. I had Justin behind me. I had the whole crew, a couple assistants, like didn't have room to fit into this space. So they were just like awkwardly standing in the hallway on their laptops doing a million things. And I did a teaser, super, super short, of just a date and like a million different Spider-Man logos behind it. And they gave me notes, and they're like, this is good. Just like take out the color blue. We don't want to use that logo. Rearrange this thing so it goes over there. But otherwise, you're looking good. And they started to stand up, and I was already done with their notes. Like I had hit all of those notes before they could move. I was like, brrr, tap, render. I was like, how's this? And they like were stunned, and they're like, did you just do that? I was like, yeah.
I feel like that could come to backfire though. Is like, this person's in a pinch and they're like, Shrader, I need this done right now. And you're like, fine, done.
There are some things that are impossible. We live in a real world with real restraints and physics. When my computer melts, genuinely during Spiderverse, my computer had a RAM problem. It literally couldn't keep up, and I had to take it to some like shady computer man in mid city and just like, hey, I gotta get this done. And I was like computerless for 3 days. It was like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And I was like, don't tell anybody. Like I told the two people I needed to tell, I was like, don't tell anybody. My computer crashed. Like literally the whole movie is just waiting for me to finish it.
Oh my gosh.
That was pretty crazy.
You're like, out of office email. Sorry, I'm on holiday. I'll get back to you on Monday.
Yeah, I'll get back to you later. Sorry. And then I just went to the beach because there was literally nothing I could do.
I don't blame you. That is a great way to look at that situation. So these are all sounding great. This is sounding so fun. I'm ready to pack my bags and, head to Sony Animation. But like, what are some of the struggles of being an animator that doesn't get highlighted or talked about enough?
A lot of it is mindset. A lot of it is heartbreak, if I could be a little romantic about it. Being an artist in the industry, working with a team of people, you have to make a lot of adjustments. And even if you really, really love something, if it's not right for the story you're telling, it's got to go. So you've got to be really flexible, and you've got to be fast. You've got to be willing to put yourself out there. You've got to be willing to throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. One thing that was actually super hard was I grew up doing art. I grew up doing this thing as like a fun hobby. And all of a sudden, my fun hobby is now my job, and I don't have a fun hobby anymore. I sold it. So I need another fun hobby, and like how to keep a part of it for myself while also like snapping it in half and saying, you can have this part, but I'm keeping this for myself, and making space for things that you love, which the waters get pretty muddy. That line gets super blurry when work is something you love.
And then I've heard this, I don't know if it's true. Tell me if this is like not a real thing. Animators will watch how they say it to animate their
absolutely
cartoons to do that.
For sure. Yes. I have a friend who works at DreamWorks, Gonzo, and he is posting a ton of his behind the scenes lately of recording yourself, doing an action, making a face, and then translating that into a product into the kind of final animation. Super fun to watch. And honestly, I want a movie of all that. And every animator does it. A lot of them have a mirror right next to their workstation, right? So they can just like look over and like, how does an eyebrow move? How do cheeks move when you smile, and what muscles are there? Yeah. Learning facial anatomy is insane. And it really comes across. I think the more effort you put into it, you can absolutely tell when things are done with experience. Yeah, for sure.
But as I think about this, I'm like, this is so fun. I think all the way back, like you were saying, like we were talking before about Snow White and how it used to be the panes and the cameras and like the layering and all that stuff. But now I'm looking to the future of, I hear all this stuff like ChatGPT and AI, and what does that future look like? Can you talk about what the good and the bad future of animation could look like with AI or without AI?
I think you actually bring up a really good segue point of the multiplane camera. Of that was technology that really changed the landscape of animation. Like you said, it's the multiplane camera was several sheets of painted glass that they could drop a camera into, or move a camera around the space, and it gave a really nice like depth and parallax to a lot of like these establishing shots in early Disney movies. A piece of technology that totally blew everybody away and was like the peak of technology, animation technology at the time. Amazing, beautiful, wonderful. And it created a lot of jobs. Like somebody had to build the tower. Somebody had to use the camera, right? Like there all of a sudden there was a new aspect to the industry that had to be learned. AI is not that thing. AI is call it what it is, theft. AI is just shamelessly making a profit off of stealing other people's work, not giving credit to those artists. But I think similar to kind of what we were talking about earlier, of like, if you can make a tool that streamlines the process and makes things easier, that is adjustable, absolutely, I'm all for it. I would love AI to color in 2D hand-drawn images. That's like the most boring part of 2D traditional hand-drawn images, is doing the line work, doing the character work, making expressions, like with the mirror and filming yourself and seeing how something moves through space. Fascinating, amazing. I'd love that. But then you have to color every frame, 24 frames a second, 30 if you're insane. And like, just give that job to a robot. Let a soulless robot do that for me. I don't want to do that. I want to keep doing the fun things I like to do. Let robots take the jobs I don't want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's say, everybody at home listening right now, they're all future animators who, want to take out down AI, but like, what advice do you have for them who are just starting out their career, or even just shifting their career to animation? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, if you are, say, a student coming into the animation industry, like if you're in high school, if you're just starting college, keep going. It's going to be great. It's going to be super fun. If you're entering the industry right now, apologies. It's kind of weird. It's studios in general are changing dramatically right now, with all the strikes and all the AI. It's kind of wild right now. I have no doubt it's going to settle out, given enough time. The landscape is definitely going to change, but honestly, I think the biggest advice I could give to really anybody interested in art at all is something I learned from Patrick O'Keefe, production designer on Across the Spiderverse. He said, find out what you like and why you like it. And that has just really blown my mind over the last year and change of, sure, you can say that you like sunsets and you like rainbows and you like landscapes and you like uh, sidewalk graffiti art or whatever, but now that you've answered that question of what do you like, why do you like it, and what are the connecting patterns between these things, and it really takes that idea of just like, oh, what's your favorite color, to like a whole nother level of
Deeper meaning.
Way deeper, because sometimes the answer is not just, oh, because it looks pretty. Like sometimes the answer is like, oh, because this reminds me of my grandpa, and like that is a wild idea to try and translate to an audience then, because again, there's that thing of like, I'm keeping this for myself or I'm presenting this to an audience, and it's like, how do you have a series of colors that makes an audience think of their grandpa, right? Like,
interesting.
Find the things that you like, find out why you like them, and then if you're looking to make a product, if you're looking to like influence an audience, that's just a whole other level of study. Yeah, that's kind of wild.
So we have these animators who have figured out their purpose, but like are applying to work at Sony or whoever and just can't, seem to break through. What would you do to tips or tricks to get noticed with their work, or, have it seen by somebody?
Yeah. Again, it's kind of that idea of nobody's ever been in 2024 before. This is new for everybody. Back in the day, back in the day, like in the 60s, like to get your work in front of somebody, you had to like physically mail it. You had to physically mail your work, probably your originals, to a studio, and there was a whole department of just stacks of portfolios, right? And if you were lucky, you just got picked out of the pile. They liked your stuff at that time, and you got a job. Now that stack of portfolios is social media, is Instagram, is Twitter, is Tumblr, is LinkedIn, is like whatever, fill in the blank. YouTube. If you're doing animation, TikTok is huge right now. So how to get your stuff seen by a studio is the same thing of how to get your stuff seen by anybody. We at I say we like I had anything to do with it. Sony hired like a 14-year-old kid to work on Spiderverse because he made one really cool Lego fan art, and they're like, this is great, what else you got? And they hired him for a couple months to do that Lego Spider-Man scene. Absolutely an inspiration. Way to go. I'm blanking on his name right now, but super, super impressive. And really that's kind of what the industry looks like right now. You don't need a college education. It helped me a ton, but if you are those lucky few who are crazy talented and driven and know how to do it and can put it out there, because all of those are steps, right? Like that's how you get seen. That's how people see your work and share your work. And if you're looking for more work, it kind of compounds on itself like that. So yeah, the industry is super crazy, and college helped me a ton. It's absolutely not for everybody. It's also stupid expensive, a lot of places. and there's the risk that it doesn't pay off, right? Like, anyway, so if you're passionate about it, just keep putting it out there. And also I want to say social media with an asterisk and say, people can tell how excited and enthusiastic you are about the thing that you produce. So again, finding that balance of things that you like and things that are for somebody. But if you hate the thing that you're working on and you think that it's the dumbest thing ever, everybody can tell that you just phoned it in. And if you can tell that you absolutely love it and you are genuinely interested in this subject and genuinely interested in the thing that you are creating, people can also tell that. And that is the thing that people are interested in.
Yeah.
I'll speak for myself. That's what I'm interested. I want to know what you're interested in.
Yeah, no, I think you make a great point. I think in any work, it's all on intention and showing up on the rainy days, because everybody can show up on the sunny days, and it's like
for sure
showing your passion and your, the next step up above. Are you working on any cool projects or things outside of Sony that you want to highlight on the show or talk about?
Absolutely, yeah. Me and my buddy Tristan are working on a really just a passion project of it's called The Mothmen. It's Scooby-Doo meets X-Files. It's a Monster of the Week road trip. Our main character got his nephew kidnapped by Bigfoot, and they are traveling from Washington, D.C. to Washington State, hunting down all the monsters that they can find along the way, trying to rescue their nephew, and also stopping a madman from just causing an apocalypse.
How fun!
It was a fun idea that we came up with during 2020. That happened, and we were roommates and just kind of spitballing ideas, and we came up with like a dozen stories that we really liked, and just picked a handful to really take as far as we could, and that's the current passion project. So keep an eye out. I think we're on Instagram at themothmen.tv or _TV. We've got a little teaser, and we've got a couple of really, really talented artists on it that I'm super excited to get that out in the public and see where it goes. We're pitching it out to a couple studios right now.
Shrader, do you have any clips you'd like to share?
Yeah, I do have. It's super quick, just an easy title treatment, but here it is, The Mothmen.
Thank you so much, Shrader, for coming onto the show. I really appreciate it. It was a jam-packed show. I felt like we could talk another 2 hours. I feel like talking about animation.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is one of my hyper fixations, right? This is something I could talk about for a while.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Yeah, no, it's been my passion project of just wanting to interview people in the industry, of just to hear their stories and hear what they do, because I'm always curious of, what other people do and how they spend their time. So for those listening at home, thank you so much. I would love it if you could just hit subscribe and like our videos, and just, come along with the journey, because I think this is great, and I love, interviewing people, and I don't want to be the only one watching these videos. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one.